Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu class. So, we will get started. We will start with Mangalacharan prayers. I will share my screen and we will get started. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Madam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Satyati Shatarine Ek Karunam Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Panchakalpatruvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva Patitana Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nanda Gadadhara Hari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay, right. Now we'll go into Bhakti Rasamrita-sindhu. Okay. Are you seeing this screen now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
So thank you. We are studying Śrī Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada, and his English summary study by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Also, we are going into commentaries by Srila Jiva Goswami, which is known as Durgama Sangamani, and also the commentary by Srila Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura, known as Bhakti Sar Pradarshini. Okay, let us sing these two verses, lead follow, of Shad Goswami Ashtakam. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritambo Nidhi
Krishna Kirtana Gana Paro Prema Nidhi
Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Karo Nirmatsaro Pujito
Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Karo Pujito
Chaitanya Kripa Bharao Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavhantarako
Chaitanya Kripa Bharo Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavhantarako
Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Jiva Gopalako
Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipuno Sadharma Sanstapako Lokanam hitakarinau tribhuvane manyo sharanyakaro.
Lokanam hitakarinau tribhuvane manyam
Sa Krishna padaravinda bhajana nandena mattaliko.
Radha Krishna Padaravinda
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugao Shri Jiva Gopalakao.
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Gopalakao.
Okay, so now the memorization verses again, lead follow. Anya bhilashita shunyam Jnana karmadhyanavritam
Karmartyanavritam
Ulyena krishnanu
Ulyena Krishnanu
Bhaktiruttama Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam
Draupadi Nirmuktam
Parattvena nirmalam
Nirmalam
Ena rishikesha Bhaktiruchyate Atah Shri Krishna namadi Grahyamindriyaihi
Indriyai
Ehi jivhado Yameva suratyadaha Tasya vishayan Yunjataha Krishna sambandhe Vairagyamuchyate. Okay, very good. Now let me skip to the slide where we will start today's discussion. And yeah. Okay. So we ended here last week or 2 weeks ago. Last week there was no class. So we are discussing the 3 categories of qualifications of a devotee and qualification for performing bhakti, especially Vaidhi bhakti. So just again, very quickly, we are into the Sadhan Bhakti chapter, very long chapter of Śrī Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. And we started with quick review of Sadhan Bhakti and divided Rupa Goswami divided Sadhan Bhakti into Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. And now we are into Sadhan Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti discussion. And now Sri Rupa Goswami is describing the qualifications of a devotee for performing Vaidhi Bhakti. He has already given 2 qualifications, which is not too attached and not too detached. Not too attached to material things and not too detached from material things. So that all we discussed in previous classes. So these are the 3 categories. Uttamo madhyamascha syat kanishthas cheti satridha. So these are the 3 categories, and I am sharing from the futures verses and the commentaries that oh, I'm not sharing the slides. Sorry. Thank you for pointing out. Okay. So this is the qualification is Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishtha. And it is based on one big aspect, which is how much investment one has in Shastra Adhyaya. So it is broken down first into three categories: Shastra Shraddha, then Shastra Nipunta, and Shastra Yukti. I should change the order on the slide. Shastra Shraddha should come first, then Nipunta, then Yukti. So the first is faith or conviction in the Shastra, that the Shastra is correct. And when do you need a Shastra? You need Shastra when you are not sure. So you go back and refer to the law books. And the law book will tell you what is right, what is wrong. Once you have internalized it, you may not need it, but all your knowledge is again still based on it. So in times of doubt, the Shastra is to be looked up to understand what is right, what is wrong. Okay, Tasmat Shastram Vidhanam Che. In Bhagavad Gita, there is this very important verse, 16.24, that Karya Akarya Vyavasthitau. What to do, what not to do, Tasmat Shastram Vidhanam Te. That the Shastra tells, in cases whenever there is a doubt, always go to Shastra. So that is Shraddha. It means Shraddha in Shastra. That you don't go to your uncle, you don't go to your neighbor, you don't go to a politician, you don't go to anybody else, you go to Shastra. So you have Shraddha in Shastra. Then when you start understanding Shastra more and more in detail, then you begin to get expertise in Shastra. That is Shastra Nipunata. Then you can make decisions at runtime, because looking up Shastra also takes time. Many of you might have sat in open book tests. Open book test is not very useful. So all you can do is to take a big fat book in the test. You need to know where to look. So if you have not studied the book beforehand, you don't even know where to look. Okay. So that is why Shastra Nipunata is important, because when things happen in your life, you cannot at that time start reading Shastra. Okay. And then there are many contradictory statements, apparently contradictory statements in Shastra. So you will see one thing here, one thing there, one thing there. You have to harmonize it and assimilate all of it. That is called Nipunta. It is not just memorizing like a parrot. It is assimilation, and full sort of a cohesive understanding needs to be developed. That is Shastra Nipunata. And finally, Shastra Yukti means to use the Shastra in your life. That is one point. And last week or last week, there was a question one devotee asked about using the Shastra also to help others, to convince others of the message of the Shastra. And again, it is not for, I used the word defeat. It is not like you go pick a fight and then you defeat, like a, like a bhai, in UP we call bhai on the road, He doesn't go around the street picking up fights and then, it's not like a dog. That's what dogs do. They go and pick fight with another dog, and then whoever wins is the king of that street. So that's a dog mentality. This is only when one is challenged, when others challenge your faith. Or if you are in a position of guiding others, then you need to be able to convince them. They will bring some doubts, and you need to be able to convince them. So all this is very much required from teachers. If there were no teachers, we would all not be here. So that's why Shastra Yukti is also important. So based on, all three are based on Shastra, and that is the primary qualification for performing or for entering into Vaidhi Bhakti. So we discussed this slide also. Eligibility to start Vaidhi Bhakti is grace, yadrichaya. Also this ati bhagya, we saw these two words. And then not too attached and not too detached. Then there are three levels like we discussed: Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. Adhikari means your level of qualification. Okay. So Uttam Adhikari in this context does not mean Uttam Bhakta. Okay. So if one is a Kanishta Adhikari, and we will go into little more discussion today about these three levels. a very good exercise for you will be to assess where you are. Okay, and try to move to the next level. Ultimately, we all want to come to the level of being a Uttam Bhakta. So this is the path to come to the level of Uttama Bhakta. We first have to become Uttama Adhikari. Before that, we have to become Madhyam Adhikari, and so on. So we must try to become more and more qualified. Then I think I have this on one of the later slides, that after becoming Uttama Adhikari, one can then complete his sadhana. He can then complete his sadhan bhakti and become Uttama Bhakta, means he has attained the sadhya, which is bhava bhakti and then prema bhakti. So they were categorized as sadhya. That which is to be attained is sadhya. So the Uttama Adhikari also performs sadhana by using the various means and processes, the sadhanas, and becomes a Uttama Bhakta. So this is the sort of the progression. If you have any questions, please, you can raise your hand and we can discuss. All right. So now Sri Rupa Goswami discusses the 3 levels of bhaktas or adhikaris. So Uttam Adhikari is the most qualified devotee. So let us see what he says here. Shastre yuktau cha nipunah. So he is nipun in Shastra. Sarvatha dridha nishchayaha. That he is having very firm faith in the Shastra. Dridha nishchayaha. Praudha shraddho adhikariyaha. And he has dridha nishchaya and praudha shraddha. So 2 things kind of similar. Praudha shraddho adhikariyah sa bhaktav uttamo mataha. Such a bhakta is uttam in the opinion of Sri Rupa Goswami. So let us break this down. So there are 3 categories. Shastra yukta, nipuna sarvatha dridha nishchaya, and praudha shraddha. So a devotee who is the most qualified for becoming a Uttam Bhakta. This is again qualification for becoming Uttam Bhakta. It is not Uttam Bhakta yet, but just a qualification for becoming Uttam Bhakta is expert in knowledge of Shastra, which is nipuna. Nipuna sarvatha dridha nishchayaha. So he is very nipuna. Then the second one is Shastra Yukti. I'm maintaining the same sequence as the previous slide, which is Nipunata, Yukti, and Shraddha. So that's the sequence I'm maintaining here. So Shastre Yukta. And the third is that Praudha Shraddha. Praudha means immovable Shraddha in the Shastra. Okay. So what this really means is that there is absolutely nothing. Immovable faith in Shastra means there is absolutely nothing that can move his faith in the Shastra, whatever happens. Now, it will make a little more sense when we compare this with Madhyam Adhikari. So, his own faith is immovable, and he can convince others and also make their faith stronger from where it is right now. So he has both of those things, and he is able to do both of these things, keep his faith firm and convince others or make others' faith stronger because of his own expertise in the Shastra. So that's what makes sense. Okay. So this one is fairly easy to understand. So obviously, like I said, Uttam Adhikari in this context is not equal to Uttam Bhakta. Uttam Adhikari still needs to perform sadhana bhakti and then obtains the sadhya and thus becomes a Uttam Bhakta. So this is a common confusion that many devotees have in this context, Uttam Adhikari and Uttam Bhakta. So Adhikari means one has the adhikar, one has the qualification for something. Okay, now comes the important one, which is Madhyam Adhikari. So Madhyam Adhikari, this is next verse, 18th verse of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, second chapter. Yah shastradishva anipunah. Anipuna. So previously what was used was nipuna. Okay. So this is anipuna. Shraddhavan sa tu madhyamah. Now here we have to use commentaries by Jiva Goswami and Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura to understand this. So one can think that anipunah means that he is not nipuna, not an expert in Shastra. But that is not the meaning that is given by Shri Jiva Goswami. And please remember, when Bhakti Rasamrita-sindhu was being written, Srila Jiva Goswami was getting a running commentary by Sri Rupa Goswami. And Jiva Goswami is one of the millennium's most intelligent persons. He was memorizing all the commentary he was getting by Rupa Goswami, and then later on he wrote it as the Durgama Sangamani. So basically Jiva Goswami's commentary is his own assimilation, of course, but a large part also was being told by Rupa Goswami as he was composing the Bhakti Rasamrita-sindhu. So we are on this word anipuna. So let us stay with the understanding. It is not the right understanding. Let us stay with the understanding that he is not expert in Shastra, but he is shraddhavan sa tu madhyamah. So he is having firm faith in the scripture, but he is not an expert in the scripture. So Sri Jiva Goswami clarifies, it's not that he is anipuna, he is less expert, little bit less expert compared to the uttama, which means that he is less expert in convincing others of the shastric conclusions. So he may not be able to fully convince somebody at certain times. But he has immovable faith in the Shastra. So the point here that is being made is that Madhyam Adhikari may be unable to establish the principles of Shastra as well as a Uttama Adhikari, as strongly as a Uttama Adhikari, in the face of a strong materialistic challenge. So if simple questions are asked, yes, he can answer. But if somebody poses a very, very strong challenge, there are very smart materialistic people as well. And they are expert in logic. Or maybe this person himself at some points of time is faced with a very tough materialistic situation. Very tough situation. And then what to do? But a Madhyam Adhikari is one who has immovable faith in the Shastra. So consider the situation of Draupadi. All the, sons were killed. The 5 sons of Draupadi were killed. And imagine a devotee whose child passes away. It's a very, very, one of the hardest things for a parent is not his own death. All of you that are parents can probably realize the thing that parent fears the most is any harm coming to their children. So if something like that happens, one can say, what is going on? I have been serving the Lord. And why is this great calamity befalling me? So one's faith can get shaken. So, but in this case, the faith doesn't get shaken. Okay, that is again, Madhyam Adhikari is not like one single bucket. There is also, it is a little bit of a gray band. You can be an entry-level Madhyam Adhikari, or it's a gradual scale. Just 3 big buckets have been given. But the point is, when faced with life situations, or when faced by arguments placed by materialistic people, strong arguments, his faith is never shaken. He may not have full expertise in the Shastra. Okay. So, even in such a case, it will not shake his own faith in the Shastra. He will say, no, I will continue to live my life according to the Shastra. Shastra means basically Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, a very important clarification is given by Sri Jiva Goswami Anipunah in this context means less expert, not zero expert. Anipuna can be taken as not nipuna. And in one of the classes I was hearing, the devotee gave an example of a verse composed by Kalidas. Kalidas is considered to be, he's not a Vaishnava bhakta, but still he's an expert in Sanskrit poetry. So he gave the example that one time he used this Anudara Kanya. Udar means what? You all know by now. Udar means Damodar. This is Damodar month. Udar means
belly,
right? Waist or belly. So Udara Kanya, a girl who has no waist. Udara. That is not possible. You cannot have a girl with no waist. It means a thin girl. So which means a thin waist, not no waist. Okay. So there are various, these are all, rules of and contextual rules of Sanskrit, which I am not an expert in, but that is the understanding we are supposed to get from here. Anipuna means less expert, not zero expert. Okay. So the important thing here is that one is less expert in Shastra. The consequence can be that he may not have all the answers if presented with a tough situation or, in life or something, but it doesn't move his faith in the Shastra. The shraddha is there. Now there are two types of shraddha. Before we go there, any questions? Somebody raised their hand and lowered it. Okay. So we will keep going. So this is an important point, very important point. It is not in the commentaries, but I want to share with you. Please pay very careful attention. What is the meaning of shraddha? It will become clear from this discussion, or some aspects will become clear. At least for me, they became clear. There are two types of shraddha: shastriya shraddha and samajik shraddha. Okay. Ashish Prabhu, can you unmute? What is the first one?
Shastri Shraddha.
And second one is samajik shraddha.
Samajik Shraddha.
What is the second one?
Samajik Shraddha.
Samajik shraddha. Thank you. So let me explain what it is. Shastriya shraddha is based on the statement shraddha or faith, that is based on you get the faith by reading the Shastra, and you get faith on the statement of the Shastra. Because Shastra says XYZ, I trust that. That's what I trust. And it leads to very strong and immovable type of shraddha or faith. And it can come from past life also. It is not necessary to be a Vedic scholar in this life and have a PhD in Sanskrit or some, not like that. You can have Shastrik Shraddha in some cases, rare cases, coming from past life also. So it's not like that. But the point is, Shastriya Shraddha means Shraddha based on the statement of Shastra. Then there is another type of Shraddha called Samajik Shraddha. Many of you might be familiar with this. I am certainly very familiar with it. And many people might find themselves in this category. It is inherent faith without knowledge of Shastra. So some faith is there in something. Maybe that, okay, Bhagwan Krishna is the Supreme Lord. But you have not read any statement. If I ask you, why do you say so? Somebody may ask, no, Krishna was just a very strong person, very intelligent person, but he's not Bhagwan. Can you tell me where it is written? Can you prove to me? Make some arguments? And you say, no, I don't know. I just know that he's Bhagwan. Okay, that is very good. So basically, it is based on some collective association with people, either through culture, through community, family, or again, even from past life also it is possible. But that Shraddha is coming without Shastra. Now, many people will say, I have a lot of Shraddha. But if you ask them certain questions, they may not be able to justify. It may still not shake their faith. They will not come out saying, oh, now my faith in Krishna is destroyed. That may not happen, but still they are not expert in the Shastra and cannot have a proof. But this kind of shraddha is weak. It can be shaken much more easily than one who has shastriya shraddha. If strong arguments are made, then one can be convinced otherwise. And I have seen this happening in my life. My wife also says, and we have seen in many cases, I have heard, where parents have shraddha, a lot of shraddha, but they don't pass it on to their children. Think about it. If you know something to be absolutely valuable, why would you not pass it down to your children? And if they don't take to that direction, would you insist or would you not insist? Now, the same parents insist, no, you must do well in school, you must follow certain moral principles like not lying or this or that. But you will see many times parents have a lot of faith in Bhagavan, but they fail to pass it down to their children in the same way they pass down other moral values or other materialistic values like working hard, doing well in school or arts or sports or whatever else. Why is that? Because this is weak shraddha. And sometimes it can even turn fanatical because you don't know the Shastra or you know half Shastra, partial. Because somebody told you, somebody may tell you also some verses so that you can just memorize. But you don't know what was above, what was below. You just have some snapshots you have memorized. So you can say, I have Shastra proof. But you don't have that whole cohesive understanding of the whole thing. Somebody may just pick a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying, go fight and kill your enemies. Okay, anybody who I consider my enemy, now I have license to kill. But you have not read all the other verses on Bhagavad Gita, which says about ahimsa, about tolerance. So if you only know partial, you can say, I know Shastra, but it is still fanatical. So all that is samajik shraddha. So this is very important to understand. And many people could fall in this category. Now, such people should invest their time in Shastra and convert themselves, or I would say uplift themselves from samajik shraddha to shastriya shraddha. And then that samajik shraddha becomes an asset. You already have the shraddha. Now you are just discovering it. Wow, I had this shraddha. It is actually said in the book like this, in the Shastra. So it becomes stronger and stronger. So it becomes a very good next level step to take. Okay, with that understanding, let us look at the Kanistha Adhikari, the least qualified devotee. So here you will see Yo Bhavet Komal Shraddha Sa Kanistho Nagadyate. So Nigadyate. So there is a contrast. If you see in Madhyam Adhikari, it is said, Yaha Shastradishva anipunah shraddhavan. So it is talking about Shastra and Shraddha, both, for Madhyam. For Uttama also it says, Shastra yuktau cha nipunah, and then Praudha Shraddha. So again, Shastra and Shraddha are being mentioned in Uttama Adhikari as well as Madhyam Adhikari. But in Kanistha Adhikari, only Shraddha is mentioned. Shastra is not even mentioned. Can you spot that? So, what it means is that a devotee is considered to have minimum qualification who has, first of all, komal. Komal means weak or tender. Very tender means it can be broken easily. That's the meaning of tender. In or faith in Shastra. And he has extremely little, or in many cases, zero knowledge of Shastra. But this is not even in the verse. It has been added by Śrī Jiva Goswami. I'm just conjecturing Jiva Goswami might have asked Rupa Goswami that Gurudev, you didn't add anything about Shastra here. In the previous two cases you added, then Sri Rupa Goswami might have responded that I'm not adding because it doesn't even exist. So anyway, so the point is, Kanishtha can be swayed, easily swayed in the face of strong arguments, materialistic arguments, or situations. So something bad happens in their life, then, within no time they will say, oh, hell with God. All these things are just useless. And, why should I invest so much of my time and energy in God when I don't get any visible returns? So their shraddha was mainly ROI based, return on investment based. And he succumbs to those arguments or situations. And he may even leave. But Sri Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura is very merciful. And he writes that later on he will come back. Because at some point he was a bhakta or had some shraddha. Even though it was komal, it was tender, it was there. So somehow or the other he will come back due to past and devotee sangha. But mainly in this case, it is komal shraddha because it is samajik. Once you start supplementing it with Shastra, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So Shastra is a very important process. Shastra study is very important for enhancing our shraddha. Okay? Please remember this point. So that if life situations occur, many of you may not be like your job, or many of you may not have anything to do with convincing other people, or other people may not be coming to you for guidance. So for 90% of the people, it is to deal with life situations. So that when life situations come, you are able to deal with them. Your faith is not swayed. Okay, and in this case, also, Sri Jiva Goswami adds, this is another, he adds anipunah, but here contextually anipunah he means very less or zero. So there is, anipunah is not in the verse, but Jiva Goswami adds it in his commentary and says this is anipunah of a different type, not as madhyam, but zero or very, very, very little. Okay. So any questions? Somebody else raised their hand and lowered it. I don't know if it was by mistake. Otherwise, we are going to change.
Kanishka Adhikari will have nature of criticizing other devotees.
Sorry?
Kanishka Adhikari will have nature of criticizing other devotees in temples.
Yes, it is. That is also possible, or not possible. That happens. And that we have studied in Nectar of Instruction discussions. Yes. But I am not going in that direction because we have to, there is a certain line of thought that Sri Rupa Goswami is trying to present. But yes, you are absolutely correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhupada.
There's a question on the chat which has been sent to me. I want to read it out. I want to ask about example of Gopa Kumar. His guru just gave him a mantra and asked him to chant it, and it will give him everything. He didn't get shastric training per se until much later. Very nice question. And we will answer this question not by Gopa Kumar, but by a very similar example of Dhruva. That is also what exactly happened in the case of Dhruva, where Narad Muni gave him a mantra and he became a pure devotee. So let's, very pertinent question, but something we will address a little bit in today's discussion. Okay, so let's go into that topic itself. So in the next two verses, so after discussing this adhikar, this qualification, Sri Rupa Goswami gives examples of 4 categories of devotees who received Lord's mercy. We can say mercy or grace or kripa. Kripa is the Sanskrit word. Both the words mercy or grace don't do justice fully. The kripa, you can think of it like blessings or, kripa. We'll just stay with that. So this is a very famous verse, 7.16 from Bhagavad Gita. where it says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukrito arjuna arto jigyasu artharthi jnani cha bharatarshabha. So the translation is, O best among Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. So this is Srila Prabhupada's translation. And pious men is the translation that Srila Prabhupada is giving to Sukritino, Sukriti. So we will go into that word a little bit more in the next couple of slides. But there are 4 categories of people who come to Krishna. Chaturvidha, 4 types. Bhajante mam, they do worship to me or render devotional service to me. So what are they? Artha, Jigyasu. Now this is 3rd. So I have put the 2nd. There's a particular sequence. Artha, Artha, Arthi, Jigyasu, and then Jnani. Okay. So that is the sequence, sort of an increasing order of sequence. So Artha is somebody who is trying to get rid of a suffering. He has something that he wants to get rid of. So in this particular, in these 2 verses, Sri Rupa Goswami is mentioning this verse. He's not quoting it. He mentions this verse very directly. It's almost as good as quoting. And then he gives 4 examples. An example from Srimad Bhagavatam is presented for each of these 4 categories. So what are the categories? Artha means one who has a problem and wants to get rid of it or solve the problem. Second is Artharthi. He doesn't have a problem per se, a suffering, but he wants something to increase his pleasure. So there is no active suffering, but he wants more pleasure from where he is right now. So Artha, Arthi, wanter, somebody who wants. Artha means some material object. The 3rd one is a Jigyasu, somebody who is curious. And the 4th is a Jnani, somebody who is having the knowledge of the impersonal absolute, the Brahman understanding and not the Bhagavan understanding. So we will go into a little bit of this, but the more important point here is that all these 4 are qualified for bhakti. That is the main point Sri Rupa Goswami is making. They have received the mercy of the Lord. So even though you can see that they are not pure devotees right now, somebody who wants to remove his suffering, material suffering, can you call he is a pure devotee? Is he anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam? No, he has some abhilasha. He is not shunya. He has an abhilasha. Hey, Lord, get rid of my suffering. See, he has that desire. Then Artharthi also has a desire. I want something. The example given here will be like Dhruva. He wanted a kingdom because he was denied to sit in his father's lap. So he said, I will get a bigger kingdom than everybody else. So that is Artharthi. So you cannot say that they are pure devotees. But they are eligible to perform bhakti and they become pure devotees later. We will see that. And that conversion from something not a pure devotee to a pure devotee, that conversion happens by the mercy of the Lord or his pure devotee. That is the key. So I have told you the essence of many future slides. Please keep this in mind and look at this whole discussion from that angle. That one may have material desires. Okay? And we said entry into Vaidhi Bhakti, it's okay. You can have not too detached, which means you can have some material desires. And that is the situation here. All these have some desires. But they get, later on, they get the mercy, kripa of Bhagavan or a bhakta. And then they become pure devotees. So that is not the only component, but that is a very essential or a mandatory component, is the kripa of Bhagavan or a devotee or a bhakta. So that is the point being. So please keep this. That's the main emphasis of this discussion. I hope that is clear to everyone. Yes. Someone is saying something. Okay. So let us see what are the 4 examples given in Srimad Bhagavatam as quoted by Sri Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is quoting these examples. I am not inventing this. This is from Srila Rupa Goswami. First is Artaha. Somebody was in suffering and he wanted relief. So who is this here?
Gajendra.
Gajendra.
Gajendra. What was his suffering?
Crocodile biting.
Crocodile biting.
Material, bodily suffer.
Bodily suffering. He was going to die. He was not able to release himself from the clutches of the crocodile. And so he called the Lord. We will see what happens soon enough. Then Artharthi. So who is this?
Dhruva.
Dhruva Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj. So what did he want?
Kingdom.
A big kingdom. So there was no crocodile biting him, but there was something else which was biting him. There was this whole insult that he faced from his stepmother and also from his father, because he was quiet. Sometimes being quiet also is an insult. So, and he wanted a big kingdom. Then Jigyasu. Jigyasu is somebody who is curious. So the example that is given is of Shaunakadi rishis. All the rishis of Naimisharanya, if you remember from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, very first few verses, starting, the first 3 verses are Mangalacharan. Starting from 4th verse itself, it says that these sages of Naimisharanya were assembled to do a 1,000-year yajna for the betterment of society and to elevate themselves as well. So that was the intention that they had. But when Suta Goswami came, they desired to ask him about bhakti, about the devotional topics. So they were curious about it. So they are called as Jigyasu. And finally, Jnanis are the 4 Kumaras. They were already Jnani, perfect Jnanis, but they were not Bhaktas yet. And they became Bhaktas after just smelling the fragrance of the Tulsi leaves, which were at the feet of Lord Vishnu. Just that simple fragrance of Tulsi leaves, but very special Tulsi leaves, because those Tulsi leaves were at the feet of Lord Vishnu. They immediately became pure devotees. So Srila Jiva Goswami has a very, very long and insightful commentary on this whole verse, which is the 20th and 21st verse. But we will not go into that. But these are the 4 examples that are given. So now let us see some points from these 4 examples. So Artha and Artharthi, like I said, they want to get some short-term relief. Okay, either from suffering, or relief means that they want to enjoy more. So I'm calling that as relief as well, some kind of relief they want. Then now this is the sequence of progression of how one might progress. So they get the relief. You may want something. Okay, I want a promotion in the job. I want whatever, a good son or a good husband, good wife, whatever it is. I want more money. Soon enough, one realizes that this, you have next desire, next desire, next desire. It is never ending. So it's not working out. And then you get curious that, hey, these short-term solutions are not working. What is a long-term solution? That is then when goes into a Jigyasu stage. And then after searching for a permanent or a long-term solution, one may understand that, oh, it is something spiritual, jnana, that all these material things are useless. unless we invest in spiritual progress, it will always be temporary. So one may get that kind of jnana and make progress towards spiritual progress, then they become jnani. Now here we are talking about impersonal spiritual progress. The goal is to simply get rid of temporary material suffering. That is the goal. The goal is not to develop loving relationship with Bhagavan. It is simply to get rid of temporary suffering and look for permanent happiness. That is the goal. Again, the happiness is mine only. I want to be happy, but the only problem is I want permanent, because I am fed up with temporary happiness. Because the moment I get some temporary happiness, it is followed by temporary suffering. So I don't want that. I want something permanent. So it is all about, still in Ishopanishad also we discussed, this impersonal progress, spiritual progress is just a negative of material desires, because it is based on just giving up or removing material desires. The basis is still material. It is just in the negative sense. So that is not good enough. Now, the important point is that they get some kind of kripa of Bhagavan or a bhakta, just like the 4 Kumaras I explained. So all these devotees or all these people that are mentioned here, they did not have any attachment to Bhagavan. They are all just looking out for their own selves. But this is the point, sukritinaha. Sukriti means some kind of fortune, luck, you can say, or they were fortunate to gain association of devotees or gain shraddha by association of devotees. Okay, so even a very powerful, now it also depends on who is that devotee, or it could be directly Bhagavan himself, but that association itself can give tremendous amount of shraddha, which is what happened in the case of Dhruva. It also happens in case of Gopa Kumar, and it happens in case of many others who are even more. There was this Mrigari person in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is the example of Valmiki. All of their lives were touched by Narad Muni, because Narad Muni is a very powerful bhakta. So just by his association, that strong shraddha can develop. Then, it can compensate for one's lack of shastra and all those things. So the important point is, here is the important point, the shift of consciousness from self-pleasure to Krishna's pleasure. That is the shift that needs to happen. So even moksha is a self-pleasure, because of your fed up with material things. So I want something permanent. So that change of consciousness from self-pleasure to Krishna's pleasure does not happen without the association or kripa of a pure devotee or the Lord himself. So, and in the Bhagavad Gita, we see that those who do not get this sukriti by Mahat Sangha, they continue in the material world. And actually, that is the sequence of verses that goes from this 7.16 later on. The Lord says, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. And he goes on to discuss the demigods, the devatas. And yes, they may get one who want the benefits. They get the benefits, but very next verse, Lord Krishna says they are temporary. And that is that whole section in 7.20 to 23. Another example is of Narad Muni himself. Even though he is the bestower, he is the giver of the kripa, in his previous life, he received the kripa when he was the son of a maidservant. He got Mahat Sangha, or pure devotee association. If you remember, his mother was a maidservant who was serving these sadhus who were coming to the ashram. And this little boy would sit and listen to those sadhus and eat their remnants and serve them. And all of that led to him becoming a pure devotee in that life. So he got that Mahat Sangha and the Kripa from them. So the point is, Mahat Kripa is essential for starting the bhakti process. Okay. And then one can become very accelerated, or his bhakti increases at a very accelerated or exponential pace. Yes, Anu Mataji, you raised your hand. Did you raise your hand? Okay. So then you can unmute and ask whenever you have a question. So some more notes. Now these are coming from Sri Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura. Again, on a similar theme, all these four devotees express some common themes, two common themes I'm going to point out. That originally they were not pure devotees, but later they became pure devotees. So you must if you're interested, you should go through the exact sequence of what all happened in their journey, at what point they became pure devotees. So they were not originally pure devotees, and they gave up something lesser. They had some desire, artharthi. They wanted to get rid of some suffering. They wanted something else. Jigyasu means they are just curious for knowledge or something. And a jnani is desirer of, he also wants something, but he wants not something material, but spiritual, moksha. So he also wants something, which is moksha. So they all had to give up something lesser and develop this greed to attain the sweetness of the Lord, the lobha. They developed this strong greed or strong desire, and then they became uttama bhaktas. Okay, so Shaunakadi rishis, they started with a desire to attain Swarga by conducting a 1,000-year yajna, fire yajna. But when they got the mercy or the kripa of Suta Goswami, and they heard Srimad Bhagavatam from him, from the mouth of such a pure devotee like Suta Goswami, they became Uttama Bhakta. So not only they heard Bhagavatam, they got the kripa of Suta Goswami as well, in the form of the narration of Bhagavatam. Kripa doesn't mean, somebody comes and touches your head and there is a flash of light, and it's not like a dramatic action. It can be through very simple actions, that through the mercy of a Mahatma or a pure devotee can be that he talks Krishna Katha to you. That is also a form of kripa. So that is what happened in the case of Suta Goswami. Dhruva, on the other hand, had this thing, tongue kind of thing on his head. So all the way, even when he got the mantra from Narad Muni, he still had the desire. So his conversion, so to say, did not happen at that moment. Of course, meeting Narad Muni was essential, because Narad Muni is a pure devotee. But it was separated by a span of time. And finally, when he saw Lord Vishnu, he was about to ask for a kingdom, but he stopped when he became a pure devotee right at that moment, when he saw Lord Vishnu. And then he said, I don't want a kingdom. I just want your bhakti. That's all. So in that moment, he became a pure devotee because of the kripa, we can say, of both Narad Muni earlier and by the Lord himself later. Gajendra also gave up the desire. First, he fought for a long time with the crocodile. Then he called the Lord to remove his suffering, if you go through the prayers of Gajendra. But later on, somewhere while reciting those prayers, he changed his desire, that why am I asking for this? I just want to go to Lord Vishnu. Why should I ask Lord Vishnu for relief of this small suffering? Next suffering will be there in next body. He could remember that, I'm in an elephant body Next body will be something else, and I was in a past body. This body is elephant. Next body will be there. What's the point of asking relief for one body of my, so many millions of bodies? And the four Kumaras, they were already, fully liberated, but their whole thing was to that they desired for liberation, or they were attracted to liberation. That whole attraction to moksha went away. And the moment they smelled the fragrance of the tulsi leaves, which is coming from the feet of the Lord, that is the point when they converted from jnanis to bhaktas. So the common theme, as you can see here, is that there is something specific. At some point of time, they gave up something lesser and became bhaktas by the kripa of Bhagwan, or a Shuddha Bhakta of Bhagwan. Okay. Now we go to the next section. Okay. So one of the points to understand from this is that Mahat Sangha is very, very, very important. Now we cannot hope that Narad Muni will come and, give us a mantra. We are probably not, I don't think I will experience that at all. So we have so many other Mahatmas who are walking the face of this planet. We should try to get their Sangha as much as possible. As much as possible. That should be our desire. And hope that one day or the other, our spiritual life will get accelerated by their kripa. Now, the segue into the next part of the discussion is that coming from this last one, the four Kumaras gave up their desire even for liberation and became pure devotees. And we said that they gave up something lesser. So the next discussion topic that Rupa Goswami brings up is the comparison of moksha with bhakti. So the topic will be moksha is lesser, is considered lower or a less achievement or less desired than becoming a bhakta. So there is this very important verse, very, very important verse in Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, 22nd verse, which goes like this. Bhukti Mukti Sprihayavat Pishachi Hridi Vartate Tavad Bhakti Sukhasyatra Katham Abhyudayo Bhavet. So the translation is that how can happiness of bhakti arise in the heart when the witch, you can see the word pishach, we say no, bhoot pishach. Pishach is like a ghost or a witch. It's a female, so it's called, the English can be like a witch. Pishachi is a female. Witch of what? Bhukti Mukti. Of bhukti means material sense enjoyment. That is bhukti. And mukti also. And liberation remains there. So the point is, bhakti cannot arise fully, cannot arise completely, or bhakti, the sadhya, you cannot become an uttama bhakta. Okay? You can start bhakti if you have material desires. That was the starting point. Not too attached, not too detached. And last class we discussed about what to do if there are material attachments. I hope you remember that. We discussed, Srila Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura quoted some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, that okay, even if I have material desires, one must know that these material desires will lead to suffering. But still one should not give up bhakti. One should continue to do bhakti, and if the material desires are there and they are unstoppable, fine. But don't give up bhakti. That was the solution given by Sri Vishvanatha Chakravarthy Thakura. That okay, go indulge in your sense gratification. It's okay. But very quickly come back to bhakti, but repent and know that this sense gratification is going to delay your progress. With that mindset, if it is unstoppable, you cannot control the urge for sense gratification. Better to do it rather than to pretend. And rather better to do that and continue to do bhakti alongside than to give up bhakti. That is the point that was made. But till this material sense enjoyment is completely gone away, the sadhya will remain elusive, will not happen. Sadhya means bhava bhakti, or we say uttama bhakti, bhava and prema bhakti, or even the desire of liberation. This is a big, big point. May not be applicable to a lot of us. For us, it is more about material sense gratification, at least for me. I don't have any desire for moksha, far from it. So, but there are many, many people who may have that, and this discussion is mainly about that. So this becomes a disqualification criteria for attaining uttama bhakti, for the attainment of the sadhya. So disqualification are residence of this desire of bhukti or mukti in the heart. That is the point. Residence of these desires in the heart. These are anya abhilasha. Remember, anya abhilashita shunyam. So if you have desire for material sense enjoyment, it is anya abhilasha. And there the next line says jnana karmadi anavritam. So moksha is the result of jnana yoga. So jnana karmadi anavritam. So that is also should be removed according to the uttama bhakti. So bhakti uttama, Krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. So uttama bhakti should not be tainted by any of these things. So it is consistent with this. This verse is consistent with anya abhilashita shunyam. So the summary of this verse is that both mukti and bhukti, or we should say the other way around, bhukti and mukti, the emphasis is on mukti, are not conducive for the attainment of uttama bhakti. They are considered as witches or pishachi. So let us see some notes. So mukti in this context is for being referred to as one's self-pleasure, not for Krishna's pleasure. It is, I want to get rid of suffering, or I want to get rid of temporary sense gratification. So I want mukti, because I know that is a higher level of sense gratification or higher level of pleasure. So all you are doing is the same thing. All the time you have been looking for higher and higher pleasure, and mukti is just yet another higher pleasure. So that is why it is not good. Because both bhukti and mukti, but this, somebody can ask, why mukti? Mukti is very nice, or moksha. So that is the problem, because it is, one looks at it for self-pleasure. Because if such desires are in the heart, Bhakti Devi cannot enter. But these desires are called pishachi or witches, because a pishachi is impure by its very nature. It eats raw meat, even it eats living organism, like, very gross, and lives in unclean places. Basically, pishachi is a very, very impure living entity. So similarly, these desires for mukti and bhukti are very impure, because it is for self-pleasure. Bhakti Devi is very pure, and she cannot coexist with this impurity in the heart. So that is why they are known as pishachi, or very strong impurities, and they need to be removed for Bhakti Devi to come and fully reside in the heart. Now, devotees also get liberation, but that is not their desire. It is just an undesired side effect. Okay. So one should not think that devotees don't get liberated. They don't desire liberation. They get it, but they never desired it. Okay. So coming back to our 4 examples, they all had a desire for mukti and bhukti, but only upon giving up those desires. Somehow or the other, they gave up those desires. and somehow or the other, in their case, means by kripa of the Lord or a Shuddha Bhakta. But that needed to happen. And then only they became pure devotees. So removal of mukti and bhukti are extremely important. Now, next comes Bhakti Devi's reciprocation. So when one gets the kripa of a devotee. Now, in many cases, in the normal cases, in some exceptional cases, that kripa is very strong, very, very strong. Okay, think of it like, let us say some rich man has a kripa on you. Ashish Vyas Prabhu, I will use you as a sounding board, if that's okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Pretend that you are a materialistic person. You are not a materialistic person. You are a very nice devotee. But let's pretend you are a materialistic person. So let us say you want a X amount of money. So let us give a number. How much money will make you happy? Come up with some number.
1 million.
$1 million. Very nice. All right. Now, let us say you have a very, very merciful friend. All right. And he says, my dear Ashish, how much money you want? And you say 1 million, and he gives you a check of 1 million, and you encash it, and you are done. Correct?
Correct.
Then you don't have to do anything. But let us say your friend was not that rich. Now, so the example that I gave was like Narad Muni. He gives kripa and you are done. But let us say you come to me, maybe. I hope I think I'm a good friend, but I don't have $1 million. So I will give you $1,000. I will say, Ashish Prabhu, I only have 1,000, but I know some nice investment portfolios. I know some, you can use this $1,000 to start a business. And here are some tips and tricks for you to start a business with this $1,000. So that $1,000 is like a kripa, right?
Right.
You didn't have that money, you had zero. So even 1,000 is a kripa. But you have to then follow the instructions. You have to do your sadhana. But that with that initial kripa and with your effort, one day you can become a millionaire. Possible?
Possible.
Okay, so that is the example. Thank you. So you can see here that the kripa is not like a, you cannot generalize it that, kripa is everything. Kripa also happens on the capacity of the devotee. Depends on whether you meet Narad Muni or you meet somebody else, or like Srila Prabhupada. So many people ask this question. When Srila Prabhupada was there, the movement was, so many people became devotees. Now for me, it is so hard. In 10 years, Srila Prabhupada made thousands and thousands of devotees. In 10 years, we cannot even make one temple. What is the difference? Arey Baba, the difference is, first of all, he was Srila Prabhupada and we are we. Right? So there is a difference. There's got to be a difference in the level, There he was a millionaire. I am just a, who can give only 1,000 kind of kripa. So there is a difference between the caliber of the devotee as well. And also in some cases or many cases, we have to put our own sadhana after receiving the kripa, and then we can attain the sadhya of $1 million in that example. So I hope that example gave some perspective of kripa and where our sadhana needs to be applied as well on top of it. So when one gets the kripa and one sincerely does the sadhana, then what happens? The reciprocation of Bhakti Devi begins. And that reciprocation is very, very strong. So I'm not going to quote the verses to make quicker progress in our course, in our series of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. So I'm just putting the summary here. So there, Sri Rupa Goswami says that for those who are devoid or who have completely given up, or even to a certain extent given up, to that extent, but here it is talking about those who have completely given up the desire for mukti and bhukti, Bhakti Devi completely captivates the minds, the word used is prana, of the devotees by Krishna Prem. So Bhakti Devi fills, you can think of it like she fills the mind or the prana. Prana can also mean like the complete existence of the devotee with Krishna Prem. And then the devotee has nothing else in his life. He just thinks about Krishna. He becomes a pure devotee. So that is the, like I said, that's the end state, or like the highest state. So when one has completely given up these things, Bhakti Devi comes in the heart, because there is no mukti or bhukti in the heart. Those pishachis, those witches are gone, and Bhakti Devi happily resides in the heart, and she fills the whole existence of the devotee with Krishna Prema. And that's all. That's the highest level. Sadhya is obtained at that point. Again, here Sri Vishvanatha Chakravarthy comments that the desire for mukti is especially harmful. Between the two pishacha of bhukti and mukti, the more dangerous is mukti. Luckily, at least many people don't have that in Kali Yuga. Their main attachment is to bhukti, sense enjoyment. But mukti is the more harmful one, because such people are detached to everything. Those who have strong desire for mukti, they are very, very detached, including the limbs of Vaidhi Bhakti. They have no attachment to hearing about Krishna. They will find the stories of Krishna to be tasteless. They will find the form of Krishna to be completely useless or completely not attractive, and so on. So that is a bigger problem. Those desiring bhukti are relatively better, because they are not averse to the limbs of Vaidhi Bhakti. So, at least, I'm hearing some story. It may not be like, I may not think of Krishna as Bhagwan. It's a nice story, whatever may be the sequence of events, the whole, fighting between Krishna and Kaliya. They may like it because they like action movies. So, okay, they maybe get attached to that. They may get attached to nice form of Krishna because they like to see nice things. They want to see Taj Mahal and this and that. They might like to see a nice temple. So, in the same way, the desire for bhakti can be dovetailed into bhakti. Anyway, then Srila Rupa Goswami quotes a very similar verse, which says that on seeing the forms of Krishna, on hearing his sweet pastimes, seeing his beautiful smile and glances, hearing his pleasing words, etc., one is completely captivated in his mind and heart. So this is the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that is quoted. So a couple of notes here. So when a pure devotee is completely absorbed in Krishna, okay, why he does not desire liberation? Why does the desire for liberation make no sense for him? The answer is liberation from what? There is absolutely nothing there is no problem in his situation. Those who were desiring moksha, what was their problem? They were fed up with the temporariness. This, on the other hand, so they wanted moksha. Here, these devotees are already in the supremely happy state. They are in as much bliss as is possible. There is no liberation to even think about, because there is no liberation from what? Nothing. I'm very, very happy. Okay. So they are not suffering. They are already perfectly happy, and their minds and everything is completely blissful in the thoughts of Sri Krishna. So there is absolutely no desire for any liberation. Okay. Then Sri Rupa Goswami has another verse which describes the situation, just like I explained already, that these devotees are fully absorbed in Lord's seva. The word seva is mentioned. So it's not just that they are in the thoughts, they are doing some seva of the Lord, some seva or the other, through their limbs, either through their words, their mind, their body, etc. Some seva they are doing, and they are blissfully absorbed in their seva. and there is no other desire or any inspiration for any other desire, absolutely nothing. They are just simply absorbed, complete absorption. Complete absorption is the sort of the situation of these pure devotees. So the sum and substance of the discussion so far is that the attainment of uttama bhakti is from a situation of completely zero desire for bhukti or mukti. The starting point happens with the kripa of a devotee. So that is very, very important ingredient. And as one progresses, one need to remove this desire of bhukti and mukti. And then finally the sadhya or Bhakti Devi comes and resides in the heart. And what follows, so this is the 25th verse of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, is a long list of evidences from Srimad Bhagavatam. So 18 verses will be there from Srimad Bhagavatam, sequentially going from Canto 3 to Canto 12. And 18 verses are quoted, especially focusing that Bhakti is greater than Mukti. That is the focus. Okay, not much focus is put on Bhukti or sense gratification. That is easier to understand. Bhakti is better than Mukti is the focus of all these verses. And then there are 8 more verses from many other scriptures. Narada Pancharatra, there will be a verse from Damodar Ashtakam. Okay. And we had gone through the word by word meaning, and there you can see Satyavrat Muni is saying, I don't want any moksha and all, na moksham vadhimva. Okay, so he says, I don't want any moksha or anything. And what does he want? This Gopala Balam Sada me manasya avistaram. So this form of Bal Gopal should be there always in my heart. He doesn't want moksha or anything. So all this is so even that verse, from one of the verses, Kuber Atmajau verse is there in the in one of these evidences that Sri Rupa Goswami is quoting. Okay, so I think I have explained, we covered a lot of ground. We will go through those evidences next time quickly, but we will cover those. Now we want to reconcile one point, and let me put it as a question to all of you. So the 14th verse said that, if you remember, that bhakti is for those who are neither too attached nor too detached, okay, from material or from sense gratification. But the 22nd verse is saying bhukti and mukti are witches. So how do we reconcile? Why did we say neither too attached nor too detached on one hand? And on the other hand, we are calling it witches. Attachment is being called as witch. So how do we understand this? I think I explained it throughout the talk, but I want to see who can explain. You can raise your hand.
Yeah.
Anybody else? You understand the question? Okay, very nice. Let's start with these 3 devotees. I will not say yes or no, but we'll just, hear what the devotees have to say. Makrand Prabhu, please go ahead.
In the verse 14 and 15, where there is recommended that too much material attachment, a little material attachment and is okay. It's advisable because this is the beginning stage. But when you are coming to the pure bhakt stage, at that stage it is not advisable. So gradually this has to be denounced.
Okay, got it. Ashish Vyas Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Yeah, the similar line, Prabhuji, when we say not to be detached or not to be attached, means There are two polars. We should not go to the extreme of anyone. And whatever the body will be needed for the devotee or for the, we will use it. And other side, when we say bhukti or mukti, as we already mentioned that for the bhaktas, this could be the byproduct which they'll not require, and they'll not enjoy that, because it's kind of the example you given. If I use $1,000 or I use a 1 million. If I have a 1 million, why I will look for the 1,000? Already I have that. I have the bigger motto on my life. I know where I'm going. Why I'll look other side? That I am interpreting, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay, got it. Shalu Mataji.
Yeah, on the similar lines, I was also thinking on the same line. That is the intensity of your desires, either material or spiritual. When you are starting on the path, they are too high, but slowly they just drop down because you develop something else, interest in something else, which you think that motivates you more, which is more fulfilling compared to all this. Like Prabhuji just said, that if you have $1 million, you don't care for the $1,000.
Okay, very nice. Okay, thank you. Anjana Mataji, did you raise your hand, or I saw that and then you lowered it?
Yes, Prabhuji, because I also have similar thoughts. So I was like, I just wanted to say that there has to be some kind of attachment in you. Otherwise, how will you attach yourself to Krishna? If there is no attachment, then there is no way that you can attach yourself to, Krishna. It's more about redirecting your attachment. Also, as Ashish Prabhuji and you gave an example, that, once you have a higher taste, little bit of higher taste, what you want to go for is a higher taste rather than, those lower tastes. Those, sense gratification, that is like a temporary, whereas, love of Krishna is forever, everlasting, ever fulfilling. So it's basically making right choices. And once you know that this is the right choices for you, then you advance on that path.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Mataji. Surya.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, with neutral attachment to material thing, and with uttama bhakti, when we get uttama bhakti, Lord will give automatically bhukti and mukti.
Okay.
We may not be after bhukti or mukti, he gives automatically.
Okay, okay, got it. Shamlila Mataji, did you raise your hand or lower it, or?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, I was just thinking and then sort of lost a little bit train of thought. So when you were describing, it seemed like a lot of those, जैसे आपने बोला कि what does he want liberation from, right? Because he's happy here. And in turn, if you want liberation because you're very unhappy, or if you're very detached, then it could also be like you're going towards impersonalism and thinking of like void, and there's no seva bhav. Like the bhav is sort of missing. So I think that I started thinking on that line, but then I couldn't finish my train of thought, so I put down my hand.
Okay, okay, thanks. So I think many devotees said it rightly, and I want to correct some of the points as well, is that the 14th verse is talking about the entry point. Okay, it is okay to have some material attachments and not too much material attachments either. So some detachment propensity has to be there. Okay, so that's what the 14th verse is talking about. Because if there is zero detachment from material sense gratification, then there will be no interest. And the path of bhakti, the sadhana that one needs to do, will appear as a big hurdle or a big problem, and one will give it up because one is too attached to sense gratification. So getting up early in the morning, doing your japa, worshipping the deity, why is that needed? Early in the morning, I just want to switch on the news or whatever, else. I want to check the stock market or anything that is like that. So that will not even be there. So some detachment is needed, but even if there is some attachment, it's okay. That is what the 14th verse is saying. To start, then one must continue the process of sadhana at that point and keep making progress. And while one is enjoying the sense gratification, one must understand that this sense gratification is not good. It is not healthy, and one must try to reduce it. What the 22nd verse is talking about is the end state, that Bhakti Devi will not fully reside in the heart till this desire for sense gratification or desire for mukti, moksha, are present in the heart. So at the completion of the sadhana bhakti stage, these two should completely go away, and then Bhakti Devi comes and resides in the heart. That is the end state. That it is correct on the $1,000 versus $1 million example. I just wanted to mention that, yes, once you have $1 million, then you don't care about $1,000, which means that once you got kripa from somebody like Narad Muni, in this example, he is like a millionaire, then you don't need to go ask for $1,000 from anyone. You are done. But the point that was there is that I was making is that there are levels of kripa as well. So one must not just think that all I want is kripa and I don't have to do sadhana. The examples that are mentioned in the Shastra are very extreme examples, because those devotees happened to meet millionaire like Narad Muni, and therefore there was an instant conversion. In most of our cases, that may not happen. So we still need the kripa, we still need $1,000, and then we need to do our disciplined and sincere Vaidhi Bhakti to make that 1,000 into million. It will grow by our sadhana. So one must not forget that our sadhana is also important. The kripa is important and our sadhana is important, because in our case, we will not most likely meet a millionaire. So that was the point being made. All right. Yes, Shamlila Mataji, you have raised your hand.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes.
So Prabhuji, this not too attached or not too detached, this is a subjective sort of analysis that we have to do on our own self, because I know that you keep telling us that we must not compare ourselves to other devotees. They are so ahead and we are so. So this is something that we need to like reflect on our own selves, that where was I maybe like last year versus where I am.
Yes, you can reflect on yourself, but I somehow heard maybe I didn't hear, or maybe you didn't mean that, but don't evaluate, am I still attached? And if I'm not slightly attached, then is there a problem? No. The goal is to continue to reduce our material attachments. Okay, so the point of that verse, and maybe, I'm sure you already know this, but the point is that one must not victimize oneself, not beat up oneself if there is still material attachments present, but continue to try to reduce them. Because at the end state, bhukti has to become zero. Okay, but at the same time, don't go in this mental trip. One should not go in this mental trip. Oh, I am such a bad devotee. I cannot even give up all my attachments. Look at this other devotee. He has easily given up. How do you know? Maybe he has given up. Maybe he's a great devotee, or maybe he's a great pretender. You never know. So don't worry. And maybe he has done a lot of things in his past life you are not seeing. Right? He is so young, without doing anything, he has developed attachment. Young means what? In this body, he is young. You may have not seen all the things he has done in his past. So there are so many things. So yes, we should not compare. We should not beat ourselves up if we have material attachments, yet at the same time, continue to reduce our material attachments. Was that the kind of the realm of your question?
Yes, Prabhuji, because I was like, even last week or the week before that, I was just trying to think of how do we sort of quantify what is too much or too little, because that is, literally subjective.
Yeah, it is
in the whole thing.
And you quantify by your, so that's a point also you made, and I did not address it. You quantify it according to your own baseline. Okay? Just like a doctor, when you go, let's say I have diabetes. Okay, I go to the doctor. The first thing he does is sets a baseline. Okay, today you are coming and seeing the doctor for the first time. He will say, today your blood sugar is whatever, 200. Then he will give you certain prescription to go down from 200 to 180 to 150. Okay. Another patient comes, he establishes a baseline 500. So he cannot give him the same formula as he gave to the 200. The baseline was 500. The goal is to come down to 450. So why not 150? Other patient you said come down to 150. For me, you are saying 450. Arey Baba, your baseline was different. So one must, so as you rightly said, we must look at, establish our baseline. And this is why journaling is very important. We must write down certain events, certain episodes in our life that I got triggered when somebody said this. Or, my ahankar got triggered. I couldn't tolerate this. Or whatever may be the situations that happened. So it may not be like you cannot put it on a scale. There is no such scale, but write down little bit paragraph. This is what happened in my life today. And this is what my reaction was. I know it is not conducive to my bhakti. I will try to improve next time. So write down those instances. Over years, you should see that your reaction improves. You can see, if that same thing happened maybe, or similar thing happened 3 years later, your reaction may be much more calm and composed and tolerant. And then you can say, yes, I'm making progress. Or if you got same reaction or even worse, then you may realize that I'm actually not making progress. So journaling is very, very important to measure our own progress. It's a very nice way of measuring our progress for those who are interested in measuring their progress.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay, we are at 1 hour 40 minutes. So anything else? Okay, then we will call it a day, and we will see you all next week. Yes, we will have class. So we will see you all next week. We will go through all those examples quickly. So many beautiful examples are there. I welcomed you to read Nectar of Devotion. Srila Prabhupada has given brief descriptions of those. And then, we will progress. Then we'll very quickly come in later into the 64 limbs of Vaidhi Bhakti. That's the main sort of thing we are building up to in this Sadhana Bhakti chapter. How to do Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi means Vidhi. Where is the formula? Prescription. So prescription is coming. 64 items are coming. Is our prescription. So we will discuss those soon enough. So we want to get. Okay, Kartik Maas is ending tomorrow. Please do Damodar Ashtakam very nicely, with as much absorption as possible. And all the best to all of you. Srila
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We'll close the call then.